Hey everybody, this is the Post Movie Podcast. I'm Steve Head.
And I'm John Black.
In this week's episode, we're going to discuss the new Will Ferrell, Mark Wahlberg buddy cop comedy, The Other Guys. And we're also going to discuss the new Disney-distributed dance flick, Step Up 3D. But before we get into the reviews, just a quick communications note. Feel free to send us an email at postmoviepodcast@gmail.com and let us know what you think. We'd love to hear from you. You can also friend us on Facebook. We're on Facebook. Or you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at twitter.com/SteveHead. Or you can just visit post-movie.net and you can check out all of our episodes online. And it would be cool to hear from you. So definitely send us an email, postmoviepodcast@gmail.com. John.
Yes, Steve.
How are you?
I'm good.
We got an email, finally.
Yeah.
we got a couple of reader emails. One good, one bad. We'll save the bad for later, but get right to the good one. John from Boston writes, "Hi guys, I really enjoy your podcast, but I'm guilty of being a downloader and not an emailer. So your plea at the end of the last podcast moved me to write. Here's one suggestion. What draws me into your podcast, aside from the brilliance of your insights, gotta love that,
yeah,
and the verbal repartee, is to see you guys think of the latest movies that I might want to catch at the theater. So I'd prefer it if you guys start with the movies that are opening and save your surprises, etc. for later. I sometimes don't have enough time to listen to the whole podcast, and I just want to get the scoop on the latest flicks. So there's a thought. Keep up the good work, and I love it when you guys disagree."
That never happened. That never happened.
Yeah. Even before we got the that bit of feedback, I'd had a couple people tell me that they'd preferred if we just start right off with the reviews and get right into that, as opposed to doing like the picks of the week and
yeah,
yada yada yada. So we're just going to kick right off with the reviews
after the next email.
Do we want to do that one right now, or save it for?
Well, let's save that for last.
Okay.
It's an email where someone doesn't like us, and I'm sure fans will want to stay tuned to see what a negative about it. All right.
Which one do you want to do first? You want to do Step Up 3D? Shall we step up for
Step Up 3D? Because after the movie, when I was talking to you, you had a pretty interesting theory about what it was. I wanted to share that with people.
What you saw before is just the beginning. Welcome to my house.
Think of a house as like a super crew. Dancers work together, live together, battle together. It's crazy, right?
This place is incredible.
It's dance porn. And
now explain that to people.
It's basically you're really watching a movie with a very slim narrative where you're watching for the money shots. The insane dance moves, the flips. You're watching it for the dance, basically.
Yep.
And that's...
Oh, God knows there's no story here.
Oh, yeah. No.
Or it's a laughably bad story.
And they were laughing at it during the film.
Yeah.
This film was definitely being laughed at. But I must say, the dancing was just phenomenal. I mean, it was astoundingly... These kids are so damn talented. It's really crazy that way. Really, really entertaining that way.
Well, I agree it's crazy, and I was sort of entertained, but after about the second or third dance number, they all looked the same to me. They all looked like, gym class on coke. They just run around, they bounce around, they do the same kind of... There's one guy in the movie who does this... It's kind of like... I thought he was doing a robot from
Yeah, he does this
but that's all he does.
Minimalist, just jerky robotic moves, and it's really cool. I mean, I really
the first time, but I mean, he does it a lot. That's all. Every time he's on camera, he does the same kind of. His head stays still and his body moves around. I don't know. It's just I didn't mind it. I went in there with zero expectations, just to sit back and stare at people jumping around, and I got that. Mm-hmm. For a brief, I mean, we did make fun of, there isn't much of a plot, but the story is that there's these group of, New York dancers. And, I've been to New York a lot, and I've never come across these groups of dancers, like from Fame or from the Step Up movies or anything like this. I always end up, walking through the neighborhood with the Warriors are clinking beer bottles and telling you to come out to play. I must be going to the wrong places. But they have this.
They did use that in comparison in some of the the press, and that the dance gangs have their own themes. There's like the Chinese dance gang, and then there's the dance gang from the Bronx.
Yeah, the Bronx.
From the Bronx Chocolate Factory.
But then they have this gorgeous rehearsal space, and but they're in danger of losing it unless they can win the big dance competition and get the money and pay their back taxes or whatever they owe, their back rent.
But it isn't just the dance competition, John. It's the one move that can change your life.
Yeah.
That can totally turn someone's perspective inside out and just.
If I could keep my head still and move my shoulders, I guess I would have that one move. But here's the thing: there's two people. It's Camille and Moose. I love the fact that the skinny nerdy guy is named Moose. But it's Adam Sevani and Allison Stoner. And they do this one old-fashioned, old-school Fred Astaire type dance number.
And that really was the highlight of the film.
It was, because, for once they're not jumping around attacking everything. They're not trying to attack the walls and the furniture and everything. They use the set, like they pick a painting up and do something with it, or they pick a hat up or do something, and it's this really sweet thing. And the thing that was missing from all the other dance movies was dance scenes for me was that watching these two dance, I felt a real connection, and I felt real characters there.
Right, which didn't happen between the two leads, Rick Malmbari and what's her name? Sharni Vincent. Well, so just to be this particular dance scene you're talking about, that was my favorite dance scene in the movie, and I think the reason that was so effective, the reason these two kids having fun on the street and sliding through cars and just strapping garbage cans to their feet is because this is the one dance in the movie that involved their character arc, where they have this give and take about whether or not they were actually going to be together, or it's very immature. It's about how kids feel about each other, puppy love kind of thing.
Right. Are they going to make the step between friends to more than friends?
So this particular dance scene sort of represented I don't want to spoil it. It's a part of their story arc, and the story is played during the dance scene, which one could make the case that there is no other scene in the dance scene in the movie that does what that one particular 5-minute sequence does.
Yeah.
Which was these kids are so talented. I mean, they really are phenomenal dancers. And I remember I saw the movie with Sarah and our friend Tanya, and I remember it was just like you're watching this and you're thinking, oh my God, they're so impossibly cute. It was
Wait, is that your voice? Is that you thinking that?
That was me thinking that.
Yeah. It was odd because in front of me there was a row of I would say 12 to 13-year-old girls, like 5 of them in a row, and they knew every song. They applauded at the end of every dance number. They went, "Oh," when the two leads kissed. That's the audience of this movie. Yeah. And then that just made me release. I was like, it's frenetic, it's energetic.
It's a very slim story, but it's basically it's somewhat reminded me of the story behind Dodgeball, where if they don't raise $100,000, they're going to, lose the facility. It's to their enemy, to their rival dance team. But there's a couple of points I want to make, and that is Sharni Vincent is a real, just an amazing dancer, and she's going to have a career. She's exceptionally photogenic. She comes across on screen as, I think these actors were cast so much, obviously first for their physical abilities in dancing, but all of them have a very strong screen presence, even though some of them are just like token characters. But Sharni Vincent and Rick Malmbari, I think I'm pronouncing his name correctly, are just, they're exceptionally photogenic. This movie, it's like watching. I think I made the comparison that Disney or Summit. I think it's a Summit film that's being distributed by Disney. I could be wrong, but they're marketing it like a soft drink. It's all about energy and motion and excitement, and the movie really does pay off on that. I mean, it is 80% dancing, and these moves are these performances are just really astounding. And there's the water performance that they perform in Chinatown against the Chinese with these sort of plastic suits that the Chinese team has. There's like this towards the beginning there's a battle in the Bronx or something like that where they have these really like mongrel-like dance team, with their lion roars and stuff like that, and it's way over the top, but it is such dumb fun, man. I must say I was amazed by what these kids were doing on screen.
I'm curious for a sec, Steve. When we just talk about who's the guy who did The Fifth Element?
Luc Besson.
All right. There are a couple of movies recently that were proteges of Luc Besson. Like the one with was it the one in Paris with John Travolta and there's a couple other action
and the guys whose name we can't remember.
Right. There's been a couple of action movies like that, and you've always disparagingly called them product. And now we've got this movie that you're saying is product, but good product?
It is. You're buying this because you're buying into this because the 3D is actually pretty amazing, and it was filmed.
Wasn't an afterthought?
It was birthed in 3D. It's fundamentally 3D. It was filmed on 3D camera equipment, and the color correction in this, the way the colors bounce on this film it's very vibrant, colorful, energetic. I think the only thing that I can say is what you mentioned as far as like the dancing being so busy. It's almost like a really bad Joe Carnahan A-Team fight sequence where you just can't see what's happening. There's so much going on, But it's lively and energetic, and everybody in the theater had a great time. Laughing at this movie. There were the
laughing at it
where
at times.
At it were as amusing as anything, but
but not in a bad way. I mean, some of the lines of dialogue were so cheeseball you had to laugh. But even then, there was that community feeling in the audience. We're all laughing at this at the right moment. It's not like when as critics we roll our eyes because something's terrible. Everyone is like they almost made it terrible so we could have that reaction.
Yeah. They're also marketing a b-boy lifestyle. I mean, this is as the main character played by Rick Mountain. What's his name again? I can't remember his name. Whatever, like it matters. He's a filmmaker.
Mr. Whitebread.
Right. So he's interviewing his fellow dancers about what it is about dance that they love, and it's simply inspiring in that way, and I do mean simple because it's about freedom and movement, and one move can change everything and connecting. But in the same way that these people are all drawn together by the one thing they love, dancing, they are very quickly split apart by it. Like it's a light side dark side thing. If you don't let me dance, I'm going to defect over to the bad guy team. I mean, their friendship appears to be that slim. Like it's about nothing more than dancing.
Well, if you listen to Moose when he has his big heartfelt moment where he tries to win back the movie maker who doesn't want to who gives up his dream and all this stuff, and this is I'm going to read it off the IMDb. Moose they're in a diner. And this guy has been reduced to, being a waiter in a diner, and Moose comes in and he's trying to get him to come back and save the day. Yeah. People dance because dance can change things. One move can bring people together. One move can make you believe like there's something more. One move can set a whole generation free.
And at that moment, that's where the guy rips his apron off and says, "I'm out of here. Let's
That's
dance."
my one move. I'm ripping up. It's kind of corny, but it's more than kind of corny. It's absolute corn. But, it's funny. Even when you hear someone, and I just read it plain. This guy moves. He sells it. And it's awful but it's
awful and amazing.
Yeah. You're like, did he really say that? I kind of want to, follow him. I want to dance. I can't, but,
it's infectious, and I think it's really, the story is so slim. We're going over this again, but really, each of the dances has their own character, and there's a couple of dances that really rise like above the others. There's this one like electric suit dance, which is really cool. They have like these lasers that they shoot straight up into the air, and all their suits are all color timed and stuff, and and then they make use of the 3D with the hand popping stuff, the way they reach out and do these dances with their arms, and yes, it's just cool. Here I am searching for ways to try and describe just the kinetic electricity that these performers have, and they really are performers. I mean, their performance isn't in any way like the acting. This is like their physical intelligence is like astounding. They defy gravity.
Wow,
in a couple
physical.
of,
I wasn't that impressed. I wasn't as impressed, I should say. To me, it was just mindless, stupid entertainment. The only dance that really did anything but make me stare at the screen was that one slow dance when they slowed it down.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the 3D and how it was, actually shot in 3D. I thought the 3D was annoying because the way the dancing's so energetic that it kind of almost gave it like a strobe light effect at times because
that's what happens when the images move so fast that you can't keep up with it. Yeah, I agree with you there. But I think what I felt in watching this in 3D is we really got their corporeality. As these are
their what? Say that again.
Their whole their being. Their they're I can't think of the right word. Okay, their corporeality. They really felt like three-dimensional characters there, and the way that the dancers behind them would dance, in the back, and the actors in the front, and the sense of space. It was all. I think 3D added a lot to the entertainment of this movie, in that you really got the sense of space. That was going on in these scenes in the back, which is so many good dancers in many of these scenes. I mean, rarely did it focus on just one, or two dancers at the same time. It's lots of group dancing with crazy shit going on. Right. And in those scenes, it's cool. Yeah, we see the same stuff over and over again, but these are some pretty amazing, breakdancing moves. I mean, I'm pretty astounded.
You're gonna quit this podcasting and go on the road, aren't you?
Yeah. Here's the thing, John. I would actually see Step Up 3D again, but
Whoa,
in every other
really?
step, in every other aspect of this movie beyond the dance, it's just shit.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, and
really,
to me, it's like I said before. Obviously, I think you liked it a lot more than I did. I just was like,
dance, just for the money.
Huh?
One is only watching this, in my opinion, for the dance. And I went into this thinking that if this didn't pay off with the dancing, the movie doesn't work. And it gets right to the dancing. 80% of it is dancing. And that's what you get. Like, my niece will love this movie. I can imagine parents taking she's 6.
Of course she's gonna love it.
It's this would be like mind blowing to her, Families are gonna dig it. I'm predicting Disney's gonna do very well with this.
Okay.
They're gonna love. Forgive me for talking over you.
No. You're obvious. I like it when you're enthusiastic.
But you know what? I would like to see it again, but I would not like to pay $17 to see it again.
Is that what it costs nowadays?
I don't think it's worth $17, man. I don't know if it's worth 12. I don't know, man. It's just we were talking about that after the movie, me and Sarah and Tanya, about whether this is actually really worth that much money, and it's like we were all kind of in agreement that no. If you can see it for $10 or $12, okay, fine, but beyond that,
bargain matinee, maybe. I wouldn't go back. Let's be honest. I wasn't that impressed. I'd YouTube that one slow dance number.
Oh, really? Is it?
Yeah.
You know what I did dig, and this isn't a spoiler. I mean, it's just there is one dance. It's not really even a dance, but it's over the end credits. So, listeners, do stay for the end credits because there's a terrific performance by this one dancer who is basically just dancing with his arms and fingers and shoulders and whatnot, just sitting in a chair, and it's a terrific perforance.
Here's
Who the guy is. But
no, this is interesting, and you mentioned that specific thing, because by the time it was over, and that guy, again, it's a guy sitting there in a chair doing his thing. I was like, if you take the music out of it, it's a bad mime show. It just looks silly to me, and I was like, why am I watching this guy?
It's like a bunch of Marcel Marceaus on crack.
Yeah, it's like, all right, I get it, sort of, kind of, but by then I was just worn out of looking at what I thought was the same shit over and over again. So,
All right.
Again, mindless fun, but I wouldn't, I'd say your 6-year-old is going to have a ball. She will.
Shall we step down? Shall we step down from step up?
Yes.
Step back.
Step back, sir.
I think you're a fake cop.
I hear a guy who's probably a little insecure.
All units, we've got a possible jumper.
We all know you're in a very dark place right now. I'm gonna do it! You're feeling as if sweet death is your only release.
Oh, we got a second jumper.
Oh, look, he's flying.
The Other Guys. What'd you think?
And, I laughed. It was like junk food. I sat there, I laughed, I walked out. I didn't have any feeling after that. It was entertaining while I watched it. I didn't think it was great. I didn't think it was memorable, but it did its job. It made me laugh. That was all I really wanted. I liked Wahlberg more than Ferrell. I'm a little tired of Will Ferrell doing the same shtick, but he wasn't too annoying this time around. Mm-hmm. My favorite parts had nothing to do with the two stars. It was having Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Samuel L. Jackson being over-the-top super cops. I thought that was hilarious.
It was a good way to start the film.
Yeah. But now as I remember, you weren't too happy with it.
No, I was disappointed. I felt that what makes Will Ferrell and Adam McKay, the director, when they're together doing something like Step Brothers or Talladega Nights, what makes particular scenes in those movies very funny to me are the they call them the runs they go on, where they just just riff on a certain mood, in a certain scene, or just play on some sort of absurdity. Like I particularly like that scene between Sacha Baron Cohen and Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly, where they were in the bar, when in Talladega Nights, when Ricky Bobby gets his arm broken, and Sacha Baron Cohen breaks his arm, and the whole thing about jazz on the jukebox and stuff. And it was to me, it was really funny. Here in The Other Guys, Mark Wahlberg tries, and I think he's a really funny guy. I do, but for some reason, I just saw him as an actor standing on a soundstage, looking at something in the distance,
waiting for Will Ferrell to shut up.
Yeah, look, to me it was actually like Will Ferrell wasn't even there. Like Mark Wahlberg was playing off something that, like a non-existent Will Ferrell. I think there was, to me, a lack of connection between their characters that actually made them weak. And I don't think that a lot of people are going to agree with me on that, but that's my particular take. And
let's start an internet rumor that they actually filmed separately, and it was on green screens, and it was put together in post.
I think that you could tell certainly in a number of scenes in this movie, particularly some scenes that took place in the at the precinct, that Mark Wahlberg was just basically yelling to the director. Like Will Ferrell wasn't there. Like his character didn't seem to, get some of the other things that were going on in this scene. It was just like he was in a world by himself. But
I thought that was kind of. I liked him as a straight man. I liked the way he played being a straight man. So I didn't get that disconnect feeling. I never felt there was great chemistry for them as a cop buddy team, or that they, pulled off the ending where we're supposed to believe they really become, BFFs. But I thought they had good straight man comedy guy timing.
Yeah, John, I will say though that there were some scenes in this movie that I thought were just really, really funny. I mean, I particularly loved when Mark Wahlberg said that he was a lion and he was going to basically attack Will Ferrell, and Will Ferrell said that he was a tuna, and so Will Ferrell's character Alan comes up with this whole scenario as to how the tunas were band together and defeat the lions. I mean, it sounds pretty lame, but when you hear the scene, when you hear the when you see it in the film, it was pretty damn funny.
No, I think it goes back to what you were talking about before with McKay and Farrell, is that joke. It's a one-liner that they just build and build and build and build and build layers of absurdity on, to the point where you almost have to laugh.
Yeah, I mean the movie has its moments. The movie has its moments. Basically, it's Mark Wahlberg who plays this guy Terry Hoyts, who used to be a super cop along the lines that Sam Jackson and Dwayne Johnson are, shown at the beginning of the movie. They play these just over-the-top cops that get into these extreme action sequences that are kind of amusing.
Yeah.
And so something happens in Mark Wahlberg's career that gets him confined to a desk job, which is about the worst possible thing. And so he finds that he's dealing with a lot of anger issues, and a lot of his anger is being directed at his partner who has been assigned to him. There was no mutual agreement, of course, that they were going to be partners, but his desk jockey buddy is Will Ferrell, Alan Gamble, who sits across the their desks are connected, sort of like Dwight and Jim on The Office, but and Will Ferrell ends up taking a lot of the crap from Mark Wahlberg. So Wahlberg's character is dealing with all these anger issues, and something happens within the within the precinct that causes sort of a power vacuum, for lack of a better way to describe it. And so Ferrell and Wahlberg's characters are sort of in a position where they can step in to fill this void, to be the super cops. But Ferrell's character is just the complete opposite of Wahlberg's. He's a forensic accountant. Yeah. He basically just runs numbers in the computer to try and nab white-collar crime. And so enter Steve Coogan's character, who plays this what we just see, he's like a corporate raider, but basically he just steals people's money right out of the bank. And he's kind of a wimpy corporate raider. But anyway, Will Ferrell's onto him. Mark Wahlberg's character doesn't believe it. Slowly some strange things start happening, where they get kidnapped. He gets Ferrell's car gets stolen, which leads to an amusing, it's not even a subplot, but there's this character that's played by Adam McKay, the director, who's a bum, uses Ferrell's car for a couple of amusing moments in the movie. Let us also not forget Eva Mendes, Will Ferrell's wife.
Well, yeah. How can, and again, here's, I think she's pretty, but I also think she's pretty talented, but she gets stuck in some of the worst supporting, she doesn't do anything here but look pretty, which is the joke, because Will Ferrell treats her as though, is constantly putting her down, and she's the, the old ball and chain, and Mark Wahlberg immediately falls in love with her.
Yeah, I think this is my favorite part of the movie, the fact that Will Ferrell had this other life that I don't want to reveal, but because it's sort of a spoiler. But he meets his wife. Like when Mark Wahlberg meets Eva Mendes, comes over for dinner to meet his wife. He's just floored by how good looking she is, and surprised that Alan thinks that she's ugly. That she's not worth it. That she really ought to fix herself up when she has guests over. But so Alan gives Mark this backstory where they had. She's actually a doctor. And for what had happened to Will Ferrell was that he was admitted to the hospital because he was suffering from rectal poison ivy. And she's treating him, and they sort of had this, immediate connection. Fell in love, yeah. And so there's this unexplainable magnetism that Will Ferrell's character has. Women just find him so incredibly sexy that all they want to do is basically have sex with him.
And it's driving Wahlberg
crazy off the wall. And it's sort of a funny sub-note that's going on there. That
it was the whole thing. Again, that's when I thought Wahlberg was doing good work as the straight man of the piece. Because his obvious the stunned look on his face and his obvious, he can't control, like even saying goodbye to her. He keeps saying goodbye to her over and over again.
Yeah.
These guys are not subtle in their comedy. No one would ever accuse him of that. That's kind of funny. Say it 20 times.
Yeah. I mean,
really funny.
We are talking about the couple of scenes here that I actually thought were, really funny. Particularly this mini subplot scene with Will Ferrell not recognizing his wife's beauty, but the way Mark Wahlberg plays these scenes is that he's actually being really real. I mean, in the interviews they did for, when asked about these couple of scenes that they did at the dinner table, is that they were just this was just Mark Wahlberg being real. He was just astounded by how good looking Eva Mendes is. That whenever they part ways in the movie, he's always coming up with some sort of call me if anything happens.
Yeah.
So it actually makes him care less about Alan, Will Ferrell's character, because if something happens to Alan, Terry's going to be there. Mark Wahlberg's going to be there to catch her when
which he makes clear at every opportunity that he can.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing about this movie is that Will Ferrell's playing he's a funny guy, but he's playing comparative to his other roles. He's playing a very subdued character, because his other characters, they're mostly like high energy, character base, or like extreme premise movies. But this is more of a subdued Will Ferrell, more of Stranger Than Fiction, that kind of worker office bee type of Will Ferrell.
Yeah, and he does a good job with it. I mean, he stays in character, except when he gets to explore his past life and act the wacky part.
But don't you think the movie just loses it 3/4 of the way through? It becomes kind of a mess. I mean, I found myself being unfortunately disinterested. I really wanted to like it. I really did. And then, I mean, want it to be a better movie than it is. I mean, I think it's a terrifically average film. Enjoyable at some points, but
that's just it. To me, it was terrifically average, and I don't think it was ever going to be anything more than that. So that's why I wasn't, I guess, disappointed, because I wasn't really expecting anything but, a few giggles. And like I said, now I'm sitting here now recounting what we saw, and I'm remembering it. But 10 minutes after I left the theater, it was out, It was being replaced by something else.
I noticed Wesley Morris in the Globe gave it 3 stars. You really liked it.
I just got Entertainment Weekly. They gave it an A. That's
really?
A little over the top, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just not there with it. This is not Will Ferrell and Adam McKay's best. I slowly came to like Step Brothers a couple of years after it was released, and I really enjoyed Talladega Nights, and of course there's the tops. There's Anchorman, which is always good for Chucks. For chuckle. So I can't believe some of the shit that I say. I don't. Like I never say that. I would never say that. But here
Chuckles?
I am doing this freaking podcast, and I say it's good for Chucks. When have I ever in my life said something like that?
Well, your whole life has changed after seeing Step Up in 3D.
It's like
you're adopting the b-boy style. You're getting your own kind of hipster language that no one understands but you.
It's like hip language that was like, yeah, I'm cool, but no. What? I'm like, where the fuck did I just come up with that? You know?
No.
Oh,
no.
God. GAWT.
Yeah, that must be it. Anyway, so I think I don't know how much more we can go about this movie.
The other guys is definitely not going to get a kicks from its title. No. I was also intrigued to hear that Adam McKay had, in interviews that I listened to, he's comparing the film to Midnight Run and other classic buddy cop comedies, and I thought, that he had said that the film, that there hasn't been a successful one in 10 years, and that there really hasn't been one lately. And the first thing I thought of was, Cop Out. Well, there's a crap film for you. Came out ago, but certainly not worth comparing your film to. But They didn't. But I think he would, just completely forgot about that one.
No, it's nowhere near a Midnight Run. Charles Grodin, Robert De Niro, and the great Dennis Farina. You can't beat those guys. Charles Grodin's delivery was so key to that, and he was the same kind of low key, but every line was a
well, right. I mean, it is a different kind of humor. Will Ferrell's broad,
but I think that's the case.
He has like a broad intelligence in his delivery, but it's just more broad,
Yeah. So. I think that's just McKay trying to make himself sound a lot better than he is. It's not another Midnight Run.
It's an okay film.
Yeah.
I definitely would say matinee. I don't think it's worth $10, but whatever. It's good for laughs. I did get a kick out of the animated intro that they have on the official website for the other guys. You might want to check that out.
Okay.
I'll send a link to you.
All right, cool.
Shall we get to the email?
Yes, we should.
Our first reader email, customer review from iTunes. Rip off with 4 exclamation points. Cough, rip off. You know what? Yeah, I'll just read it. Okay. So the user Hate Using LOL writes, from Pissytown, in his review of our podcast, this is a ripoff of the blah, blah, blah podcast so badly that it's lazy. I also have a few questions for you guys. Why make it so long after the movie release, hence the name Post-Movie Podcast? So should we just answer that question? It's just a name that's stuck. It's not like we thought into it. It's like
we spent millions of dollars researching this, and
focus groups.
Yeah, focus groups.
Charts, graphs.
We had Siskel and Ebert at the movies. It was taken. Whatever. Now,
I think it was just like, it's our post-movie discussion, and we were just, this is after movie. It's all it is,
Did this guy, when you said he compared us to blah 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 website, did he actually have a website he was comparing?
Yeah, he mentioned a website, but I'm not going to mention it. If you want,
right? But is it his?
I clicked on his account on his name or account or whatever on iTunes, and he left somewhat similar trollish, hate-ish type of emails on some other podcasts. So it could be. And one of his comments was, if you leave a customer review for blah 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 podcast, but make sure it's a positive one, no negative ones.
After bashing us.
After bashing us, yeah. And maybe
someone's angry in his basement. All alone. Hey, thank you for the email.
Thanks for the email.
Thanks for the post, It's good.
Question number 2, he asks, why put 2 movies in one review? Why not just review one movie per episode to make it more convenient, like a normal movie review podcast? And normal is in caps.
Okay.
So this is an abnormal podcast. We review more than one movie. Or should we just restrict ourselves to seeing one movie per week, Shall we attempt to try not to make a living?
Yeah, that would be it.
Question number 3. And last but not least, and then he emphasizes this, in fact, it's the most important question. Why be so friggin' annoying? All in caps.
I can't help that. I was just born friggin' annoying.
And then he ends it with blah, blah, blah podcast rocks, 11 exclamation points. So this hate using LOL from Pissytown. Oh, feels so good. Picks of the week.
What is your pick of the week, Steve?
All right, I went back into my closet and pulled out another DVD from my plastic bin and watched it. It was a 1999 film, Komodo.
Komodo? Yeah,
this was...
Is it about the Komodo dragon?
Yeah, it's from the guys who wrote Anaconda.
Okay.
Directed by Michael Lantieri.
You mean Komodo the Living Terror?
No, the Komodo dragon.
Yeah, but on the IMDb it says Komodo the Living Terror.
I don't know how terrifying the movie was. I was kind of conflicted about this film because the point of doing like a pick of the week, and as being film critics or movie reviewers, we want to bring something to people that we think they will love. And with a movie like Komodo, I got it because I fully expected it. It's one of those. It's not going to be good. It's just cheeseball.
Right.
And what is kind of endearing about this film is the fact that the movie was essentially it was a test. We're still in the sort of the early phases or mid-phase CGI, ability, to bring to life creatures and whatnot on screen. For our listeners who may not know, Michael Lantieri is one of the preeminent special effects supervisors in the business. He's Beowulf, The Hulk, Minority Report, Jurassic Park 3, Artificial Intelligence. He's Spielberg's special effects supervisor. Going all the way back to the Future 1, 2, and 3, Star Trek, just tons and tons of film. To me, he's like I want to say Stan Winston in the way that but Stan Winston is really known for his designs. Michael Lantieri helps compose these amazing special effects for a number of these movies, and he's really a talented guy, and he's a go-to guy because he's able to do these kinds of things. You know, when you work for, let's say, you know, you're a special effects house and you're trying to work on a major film, you get this work because you're able to bring your shots in at a certain budget, and he's smart and he's economical and he gets the job done, and Komodo, getting back to that, is basically a film that was made as a test to be able to make a certain type of special effect at a certain price and bring in this movie at a certain price. So he took it upon himself to direct this movie, the only movies he's directed, and frame it around these special effects that he puts in later in the film, you know, with the Komodos attacking and whatnot. And it was basically a test to try to deliver this kind of a film at a certain budget with special effects at a certain budget. And he did it with Phil Tippett, who
what?
Well, as many fans might know him from you know, his work with George Lucas, The Empire Strikes Back.
I'm sorry, I thought you said filter pet, like it was some kind of
no.
High-tech gear. He used the filter pet on this one.
Filter. No,
came out fine.
The guy who brought us Go Motion Animation. So Komodo is the story of this kid who, you know, his parents die an unfortunate death, and Jill Hennessy, who I've always kind of had a crush on, and she's another reason I got this movie, is a psychologist. And much of the movie takes place on this island off the coast of North Carolina where 19 years ago a box of Komodo eggs were dropped in the swamps off of North Carolina. And 19 years later they've evolved into these killing machines that wreak havoc on the island. And so that's the slimmest of plots, but it's kind of neat. I mean, production-wise, they filmed this in Australia. They built a number of huge sets to, you know, try and pull this off convincingly. And in some ways, it looks like a TV movie. It is amusing when these freaking Komodo dragons, you know, like eat a puppy or something. You know, it's an amusing film. You know, I liked it for these reasons, and I think film fans will appreciate it for those reasons. As it stands as a movie, it's not that great. But
I like that kind of movie. I mean, now one of the key things I need to know as someone who's potentially going to watch this is, do they show the Komodo dragon?
Yes.
Or is it like a big mystery and then in the end, you know, some cheap toy comes out and it's like, oh, that's what we waited for?
Well, I think the movie's kind of, it waits too long to actually show you the dragon. They're basically, you know, again, the term, the money shots. These are the animated sequences that, you know, they're building up for, and it's a slow reveal of the dragon, unlike Spielberg in Jurassic Park, where you see he reveals them, so it just, you know, it's there. But here, you don't really see them in their entirety until you get close to the end of the film.
And does it work? Do they look good when you finally do see them?
There's a couple of good
in quotes, you know.
There's one scene with the Komodo dragon that, you know, they're floppy. Their bellies scratch the ground and they're sloppish, but
nothing worse than a sloppy dragon.
It
could work.
Yeah, there's a creepiness to it.
The reason I asked is I just watched. This isn't my pick by any stretch of imagination, but I watched this movie called Pig Hunt. And why would I do this? It's because Fangoria magazine had a contest recently. They had 8 movies they were going to release on DVD, 8 horror movies, and they had a contest where they put the trailers for all the movies online. Fans could go and vote which trailer they thought was best, and that movie would get a 1 or 2 week release in New York. So when I was working with them to do a story for Boston Event Guide, they sent me all 8 of the full horror movies. And so I've been working my way through these things, and I got to Pig Hunt. And it's you know, down in the deep south. It's kind of like, you know, a bunch of extras from Deliverance are out there, you know, and they live in the woods and they grow pot and they kill pigs. That's all they do. But there's the legend of the Ripper, a 3,000-pound man-eating pig who, like, you know, kills people. He kills, you know, half the cast by the time, but you never see him until the very end. And then when you do, it's like, look at that piece of shit. That's hilariously bad. I you know, it just made me feel bad that I wasted 80 minutes to get to 10 minutes of this.
You've got to send me some material on this. I want to see it.
Oh, so I'll give you the movie.
Sweet.
As far as a movie I can actually recommend, when our producer, Paul Eisens, listens to this movie I'm recommended because it made me think of him.
All right.
It's a documentary called The Dungeon Masters. And what it is, it's this directed by Kevin McAllister. I don't know if he's done anything else, but it's a look at these three people who are Dungeons and Dragons fanatics. And it starts out there in full costume at a convention. It drops you right into that world of people who play Dungeons and Dragons. And then it takes you into their personal lives and teaches you what Dungeons and Dragons means to these people. Then the third part shows you how being a fanatic to Dungeons and Dragons has seriously messed up their lives. It's fascinating. I would never think I would want to see this. I have no interest. I'm like, nerd. I feel like that, what's the big guy in Revenge of the Nerds? Nerds!
Yeah.
I don't want to watch this,
I'm looking at the byline online. Dungeon Masters. This is how they roll.
It's great filmmaking. It's really fun. It's heartfelt, but it's not cheesy. The access that they give the director into their lives, either they have no clue how bad they're going to look at times. One of them, there's a 22-year-old girl who dresses up as an elf and lives her life pretty much virtually online. There's two, and the other two guys are middle-aged guys, who's one guy has a career as in the solid waste management of a Colorado town. The other guy is an unemployed writer and cable show host with some serious delusional issues. But they just let the camera in and it's a no holds barred, warts and all kind of thing that makes you feel you don't feel bad for these people. I don't know if it's some empathy you feel for these people, but you kind of respect them at the end. They reminded me at the end, I was like, Dungeons and Dragons fans are no different than some guy who paints his face and sits in the bleachers, going Go Sox or Yankee Sox, Right. It's and these guys they're game masters. They host the Dungeons and Dragons game, and this is one of the good things about the movie is I had no idea how this game is played or anything like that.
You didn't play as a kid?
No, didn't.
Grew up not far from Geneva, where they have
Switzerland?
Gen Con. No, Geneva. Oh Christ. Yeah, where they have Gen Con.
I think that's
the Dungeon Master Dungeons and Dragons.
That's the conference.
It's the Comic-Con Dungeons and Dragons.
Well, that's the conference that the movie begins and ends with.
Mm-hmm.
Is thousands of people at this show, and most of them in full costume and breaking off, and these people host. They're game hosts.
Gen Con was the thing, man. It was the thing. I had a number of friends who played Dungeons and Dragons. It was just too deep for me. It was really a suspension far beyond what I was willing to take. Dungeon Masters. It's
I guess it came out in 2008. But it's new on DVD now. I never remember seeing it coming to theaters or anything. But I highly recommend it, especially if you're like I was before the movie. If you're kind of cynical and scoff at the whole idea of people.
God, I'm surprised. I would have thought you'd have been a Dungeons and Dragons nerd.
No.
Okay.
No. I was just I spent most of my youth waiting for the joke's gone. I was gonna say, yeah. No.
Guffman.
No. What's my favorite movie in the world? Why can't I remember it? Showgirls.
Showgirls.
I drew a blank on Showgirls. This is a sign that this recording needs to end. Okay. I couldn't even make a Showgirls joke.
I think we're good for this week. I think we're good.
Yeah.
Listeners, send us another email.
Yeah.
Thousands of downloads.
Same guy.
But only like 2 or 3 emails. So we'd love to hear from you and let us know what you think. So, go ahead, John.
As you can see, we will read your emails online. So.
We will. We will. Good or bad. Good or bad.
Yep. Yes.
So we're on Facebook, we're on iTunes, and I'm on Twitter at twitter.com/SteveHead, and you can check us out at post-movie.net, which I swear to you will be more ramped up in the future. I'm working on it. We're getting there. So, until next week, I'm Steve Head.
And I'm John Black.
And this is the Post Movie Podcast. Adios. Arrivederci. I'm gonna cut after the adios. I blew it.
No. You should have an ending in every language you know. Pig Latin, everything. Just keep saying stuff.